We live in a society where if somebody commits a crime, some people like to deflect and blame it on other people. What I mean is, if you're black, you're more than likely going to be the one accused until proven otherwise. And even if you're innocent, they still going to say you did it. If you guys haven't heard that yesterday, historical black colleges and universities have been receiving threats. People threatening to do harm to the students of these campuses. Now, this ain't the first time, and more likely going to be the last time something like this happened. But it went into overdrive after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Now, let me remind y'all, Charlie Kirk was in one of the whitest states in the Union. He was in Utah. Okay? Now, if you don't know the history of Utah, when it comes down to black folks, go look it up. He was at a predominant white college. Now, you may have a handful of blacks in the crowd, whether they were supporters or not, because there are some self-hating black folk. You had people who were Asian, you had people who were Indian, you had people who were Arab, Hispanic, but the majority was white. And you should be troubled that these young men and young women view Charlie Kirk as a hero. You got people online telling us that he never said anything hateful. So if you're saying the stuff that he said about Dr. King, black people, women, gays, children, that have been very inflammatory over the years wasn't hateful, you're telling me all I need to know about you. But the thing is, you're blaming black folk for this. It wasn't a black man that fired that shot. And the irony is that Charlie Kirk was talking about gun violence, about trans, and he was talking about black folk. But he was using gangs. Because when people think about gangs, they don't think about white gangs, Asian gangs, Hispanic gangs, Jewish gangs, homosexual gangs. They think about gangs, they think about it as black guys. In movies, if it's not Latinos being portrayed as gangbangers, usually as black folk in TV shows. Now, those of us who stepped out of our comfort zones, have explored the country or different parts of the communities in which we live in, we know that violence is not geared to one group of people, but the men and women and children who were the creators of this violence, who have benefited from this violence, they got great PR in the world. If you don't believe me, let's look at how we still tell stories about Alphonse Capone. Look how much we talk about the Godfather movies being a masterpiece. I mean, I enjoyed the first two movies, don't get me wrong. Even The Sopranos, but it romanticized a certain group of human beings' behavior. They romanticize it. When you talk about historical assassinations, tell me where black folks led that charge. Oh, I give you the Malcolm X one, but we more's coming out that the government had a part of that as well. But that's the only one that I can give you. Now I know people gonna say, but what about black violence against other blacks? Violence is about proximity. It's about opportunity. There are white people that kill other white people, Hispanic kill Hispanic. I can go on with this. But you guys have sat back for years to justify your violence or try to rationalize the violence in your communities you project on the black community. Now, let me remind y'all again, it wasn't a black person that fired that shot at Charlie Kirk or any of these people in politics. And we pretty much can tell you which way they lean or which way they were leaning. From what I've been hearing, the young man in question who did this, he was a registered Republican. His father, from what I've read, is a sheriff. Hmm. Remember we told y'all when you grew up in a culture of guns and worship guns, it's not hard to believe that people have access and be able to go use guns. I said it before. I said when I heard about Charlie Kirk being shot and they didn't give a complete update during that time frame, I said he's dead. If you watch enough news, you know better. You know how to report stories. Then when I saw the video of the shooting, I said he was killed instantly. And no, I wasn't championing for that. I don't take pleasure in another human being's murder, but at the same time, you had a man they made millions in a off spreading hate, and they'll go out there and tell you that we the bad guys in the story. But when every time you turn around, they got their hands in the cookie jar. Now, if you want to dismiss this, fine, I get it. People don't like being corrected or being told that the stuff that they believe or think is right may be wrong at some point. Black Americans are not your enemies. We never were. But for people to get mad and say we're gonna start threatening black people and trolling black social media accounts and attacking us and yelling at us and accusing us of being liberals or progressive or Democrats, and a lot of us are in the middle. Let me remind y'all, Charlie Kirk made mockery of Dr. King. How did Dr. King die? He got shot in the face and in the neck. The bullet hit his jaw, destroyed his jaw, traveled through his neck, uh, 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 sliced through his spine, and it rested in his shoulder blade. If Dr. King would have survived 9 times out of 10, he'd have been a paraplegic or a vegetable. Same thing with Charlie Kirk. If he would have survived, he would have been a paraplegic or a vegetable. I'm just being honest with you. I was in the military. I know when a kill shot is a kill shot. That guy was 31 years old, and he made a career out of demoralizing other groups of people. Now, this man had a wife and 2 kids, and he should have said, you know what? I'm gonna use my voice to go out here and try to bring people together, not divide, not to pass judgment. No, he got up every day, got out there and preached misinformation. And you got a group of young people out here that's out here repeating the same shit. You know how we say that we think that those who are older, if they when they pass on, racism and all these isms will go away? No, it's gotten worse. Actually, it's always been there. But thanks to the creation of social media, the consolidation of these media companies, Ronald Reagan, his administration, getting rid of the Federalist Doctrine, for the last 40 years, we saw this uptick. We saw this slow burn. When 2008 came along and the 2008 presidential cycle, when Barack Obama got the nomination and then won the presidency, we saw all this hate come out from various circles, and the media at that time, and politicians, and John and Joan Q. Public at that time should have nipped this in the bud. But no, we kept making excuses for it. We kept rationalizing it. For nearly 20 years, we have sat back and watched this country go further and further into the toilet. Look, we ain't gonna always agree with each other. I get that. I understand that. It would be nice if everybody lived in a kumbaya society. But the reality is, Americans, a particular group of Americans, all they want is control and violence and power. Now, some of y'all are realizing because stuff is starting to touch y'all. And a lot of y'all don't want to hear, we told you so. But I'm going to say it, we told you so. Y'all think that this carnage is not going to touch you. As long as it was touching us, and I'm speaking to the black community at this point, I let the other communities speak for themselves. But when as long as black folk were suffering, people was getting a hard from it. They didn't care because they figured it ain't me. Every decade, there's been somebody in the black community trying to rationalize and reason with people like, yo, we don't want this hate. We all we want is to be treated like human beings. Give us what was promised to us and leave us alone. Let us be. If you want to join hands and sing songs and break bread and marry, intermarry, hey, that's cool. But we're not there. I don't think we ever truly will be. Not in my lifetime. It'd be nice if we, now I know people say, well, it's not like it was back in the 60s. Yes and no. At least back in the 50s and 60s and before that, you saw the stuff right in your face. They didn't hide it. Today, people go to the clubs, they'll sit down at the dinner table with you, they'll even lay down in bed with you, have an orgasm with you, and say, and you think everything is cool, but give it some time, they'll show their hand. When Charlie Kirk was shot, everybody came out. This was wrong, and I'm not saying it was right. Let me be clear. But people like, oh my God, please, when that representative, her husband, and the other two people were shot, and they and the service dog, I don't recall people coming out here doing that. Well, one reason was the weekend, and on a week when things happen like this on a weekend, people got this. I'm out doing my thing. I ain't thinking about that. And by Wednesday, it was barely talked about. Now we really only mention it, but people have been saying, "Wait a minute, what was that compassion for the elected official and her husband and their service dog and the other elected official and his wife? Where was that compassion? When Donald Trump was shot at last year, nobody in especially in the black community wished any harm on him. We said we hope he's safe. Regardless of our political differences, we don't want to see somebody get taken out like that. Now, black folk in general should have sat there and said, well, this man wished harm. He wanted to see black teenagers executed in 89. He and his father was discriminating against tenants. He done said some of those racist shit, even back when y'all love pulling out when he was next to rappers and entertainers. Remember, those are rappers and entertainers. Rich people like being around other rich people. Y'all like to throw that up in our face. Well, you guys like Trump. A lot of us did not like Trump. Trump has been saying questionable shit for years. But the powers that be say, oh, that's just Donald being Donald. We don't take Donald serious. But when he said that Barack Obama wasn't born here and all this other shit, that's when we should have nipped this in the bud. Those of you claim to be fair-minded people, you should have been offended by that. But nah, y'all rationalized it. Then when he said he wanted to run, he ran going down some escalators, vilifying people. And then when they had that shooting, and that woman got killed in Charleston, people got attacked. He said there's good people on both sides, or bad people on both sides. Use both sides in the argument that shouldn't have been both sides. And nobody called it out when they should have. They made excuses for it then. And when they kept making excuses for it, you kept enabling a certain talking point or mindset to become the norm. And I'm gonna tell you, as a country, we're gonna pay for this. How you're gonna get some idiot gonna go out here and do something to somebody for no reason. Y'all saw how that guy traveled from another state or another part of the state to go into a supermarket and kill innocent black folk for no reason. Where is that anger at him at? First thing he was saying, oh, he has a mental health issue. But when it comes down to our lives, everybody do this rationalization or, well, maybe we need to get all the facts. We need to do this. See what people have gotten used to for nearly 500 years or more. We've been on the receiving end of hatred. And bullies get off on that. We live in a society, we get off on seeing people in pain. Don't believe me? Next time a car accident happens, watch when traffic bag up and you see, why are you slowing down to look at somebody whether they hurt? Why are you taking pictures and video of somebody? I felt everybody saying, you should put the image of Charlie Kirk being shot on the internet, but y'all do that to us. I didn't take pleasure in seeing that man get shot like that. But you got social media accounts of people drive through black neighborhoods and stuff. Neighborhoods that have been disinvestment for years, resources poured out for years. And you say, look how they live. Well, guess what? You don't question the landlords that own the properties that don't take care of the properties. You don't question the elected officials who are out here doing dirt. You don't question the companies that come in and buy property and promise to develop and never do. Y'all don't get mad at the drug dealers. I mean, the drug czars, not czars, the drug, what do you call them? Drug kingpins that brought that shit and dumped into black neighborhoods. And every black community is not destitute or disrepair. But the perception is that we don't deserve or should expect respect. All we supposed to do is be treated with hate and violence. And when your communities or those communities are out here engaging in it, and we point it out, well, you just crying, you just complaining, because y'all want to push that narrative. Only black folks do harm to other black folks. Now I'll be disingenuous to say that we don't have some issues, but every community have their issues when it comes down to violence among themselves. But you guys sitting here rationalizing them attacking us or blame us for something we had no part in. Let me remind y'all, it was a white male that shot Charlie Kirk. Not a black guy, not a black gal, not black gangs. Charlie Kirk wasn't even at a black college, debating in a black college. He wouldn't do that. He went to a white college. We thought he was relatively safe. But yet, y'all want to threaten black colleges. Or is this just an excuse to say we want to go mess with black folk? I think the problem is y'all don't want to hold a mirror up to this country and admit that America is a violent country. America is a racist, sexist, homophobic, classes country. If you don't make a certain amount of money, your opinion, your views don't count. If you like somebody of the same sex, you're supposed to be treated as immoral. If you have melanin in your skin, you're supposed to be treated a particular way. You're supposed to be either somebody's punching bag, somebody who received pleasure from, or somebody entertained. Anything after or be a feed, anything after that, you're not useful. So I say again, why is why are people cool with black people being blamed for shit that we haven't done? Why are you making threats to black colleges and universities? There is something deeply wrong with a particular group of human beings on this planet when they had to resort to violence for everything. If you want to be mad at yourself for constantly defending this bullshit. We're not the bad guys of the story.